Resident, LBC 97.3. David Prever with Scottish Widows. Preparation is everything.
Every Wednesday at 3:45, I'm joined by a Guy Dresser and we talk money matters. And this afternoon, I need to talk to you about pensions. I think it's a subject that's on quite a few people's lips because apparently we're facing a pension crisis here in Britain, aren't we?
We are.
And the depth of this crisis is going to be revealed in the findings of the Pensions Committee, which is headed by Adair Turner.
That's right. It's out next week, in fact, a week today. The big problem is that there's about a £23 billion gap between what we ought to be saving as a country for our old age and what we are actually saving. It's just really difficult to kind of get younger people, anyone in their sort of 20s just starting off in their jobs, to start thinking about saving for their pension, because they think, quite rightly, it's 40 years away. I'll put it off till I'm 30.
Yeah, because young people, they want to, party and be happy and go out and spend their money now. So what is the importance of getting a pension, say, in your 20s, and why isn't it made attractive enough to young people?
Well, it's one of the best bits of advice that my first boss gave me was to get a pension. I was only 23 and I was thinking, well, why? And in any case, I wasn't earning very much. So, my argument to him was, well, if you think it's such a great idea, give me a bit more money and get the company to put some money in. A lot of companies' pension schemes, though, have closed. The trouble is that basically companies can't afford to keep them going. So they've closed a lot of the company pension schemes over the past couple of years. That's a real problem. A number of company pension schemes have gone bust. And overall...
Well, then, surely that's why then someone, say, 20 just come out of university, you need all the money you have to pay back your loans.
Student loans
and you're hearing about pension companies going bust. You're going to say, well, hey, I'm holding on to my money.
That's right, not the top of your list of priorities, is it? No, it's a real problem. I mean, the reality is that people have got to understand that the government cannot afford to pay for everyone's retirement. And one of the proposals that's likely to come out next week is that we'll all actually have to work until we're 67 before we are entitled to our national pension scheme. So that's okay, and this won't happen until 2020, so that's okay if you're over 50 right now, you'll be fine.
Thank you, right.
But if you're under 50,
yes.
That's basically a real problem, because it means you'll all have to work another 2 years,
yes.
And you might think, well, okay, 2 more years working, that's not a lot in the overall scheme of things, but two things. Firstly, 1 in 5 of us won't make it till 67, so that's great for the government. Some more of us will be dead before we can actually claim the pension. And the other thing, of course, is that you need to be putting more money aside, because things may change before then anyway.
It does seem a very one-sided thing. I've never understood the whole... We tend to be governed financially by the government. Anybody who wants to try and, make some kind of financial cushioning for themselves, it's almost as though we're dictated by this higher being as to, how much money we can have, how much money we can earn before we pay tax. And now even with pensions, I mean, as you yourself are saying, once you've been paying national insurance, it looks as though by, is it 2020, you've got to work till you're 67?
Yeah, but that's just for your government pension. Of course, if you have a private pension as well...
Okay, fine. Sorry, let me do it. Because equally now, private pension schemes, I say works pension schemes, have been going bust.
Well,
right?
That's right.
A lot have.
Yeah.
So how then can anybody feel comfortable? Imagine somebody 18, 20 listening now, getting ready to go out into the workforce, thinking of their future. Number one, they might have to work till they're 67. The way that this world is going and the way we're abusing our bodies, etc., etc., we don't know if we're going to make it till 67. And works pension schemes seem to be going bust. It's not a very bright future for somebody stepping onto the career ladder,
It's very hard. But one of the most interesting things that anyone could know about pensions is that if you start paying into a pension scheme when you're 22 or 23, you've basically got 40-odd years of paying in. And one of the great things with the money that you put in is that you get compound interest, and that builds up very quickly. The charges that you pay when you take out a pension, typically you incur those for the first 3 or 4 years of your pension, and after that, everything you put in, pretty much, it goes towards the fund that you set up for your old age. So the important thing is, the longer you pay into a pension, the disproportionately greater the benefits. So if you start taking a pension out at, say, age 40, you'll have to put in an enormous amount of money.
Give me a ballpark figure, roughly.
For how much you should be putting in? Well, there's a question.
Yeah.
Typically, when I started off in my 20s, they said, 4% of your salary.
Yeah.
If the older you are, basically, the more you should be putting away. But the reality is somewhere between 4 and 10% is a good idea. Any less than that, probably not really worth it. And obviously there are certain limits about how much you can put into a pension scheme anyway.
Also, people tend to be putting money into properties now. Yeah. Oh, his eyes have just. Oh, he's rolled
That whole
his eyes.
buy-to-let thing is just going to fund us in our old age. That's what everybody thinks. You have to take a view as to how, as to what the property prices are going to do in London. But I mean, imagine if you've got a portfolio of half a dozen properties, you think that what we'll do is we'll just sell a property after another by the time I come to retire, and that'll keep me going. That's possible, but what some of the experts are saying is that the property market is actually unsustainable at the moment. There's a real glut of buy-to-let properties in London at the moment. Rentals that you can get, the rents you can get for your property, and the yields are falling because basically there's too many other similar properties out there. So you have to take a long-term view about property. It's a risky one.
If someone listening now, let's say they're in their mid-30s and they've just decided, or they've just thought, you know what, I don't have a pension, I don't know what the future's going to hold with the government, with the state pension, I need to find something now. Now, I know that you can't, plug specific companies,
Sure.
but how can they get started? Where can they go to look for a fool's guide as to how to get a good pension?
Well, there's a number of places you can go. I mean, if you look on the internet, you'll find a number of established and well-known personal finance websites which have got listings of pension providers, and you can look at some of these and see exactly what sort of investment performance they're doing. That's one of the things you can do. Alternatively, it's not a bad idea to ask friends who've got pensions and talk to them about it, because after all, personal recommendation is an awful lot better than just going to the internet and just casting your money into the ether and hoping for the best. The other thing you could do is talk to your employer, because a lot of companies do actually offer work-based pension schemes, and it's worth sussing out if you're going to be at a company long enough. I mean, if you're the sort of person who changes jobs every 18 months, it really isn't worth taking out a pension with a particular employer, because the charges outweigh.
Then moving it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And every time you move it, you'll lose a certain amount of money. So sometimes it's worth, but take professional advice. Go and see a financial advisor. Don't take my word for it.
We're relying on you, Guy. You were just saying, if you're planning to stay with a company for long, a lot of people don't actually have that option, do they? Because the way that the market's going, I don't think anybody's really comfortable in a job now, are they? You just don't know how the economy's going. You could be surplus to staff today, you could be the blue-eyed boy tomorrow, you could be surplus the week. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. A lot of companies have restructured as well, and if you look at the way things were 30, 40 years ago, people joined a company at 22, and they worked there for 40 years, and they got their gold clock at the end of it, and went off and retired with their work-based pension. Nowadays, companies, management structures are much less hierarchical, and you join a job, and there's a certain scope for growth within it, and if you're lucky, there's promotion prospects if you're in a decent company. But quite often, you're hired to do a particular job, and then after 2 or 3 years, you find you're still doing the same thing, and that's why a lot of people do tend to move on, because it's the only way they can.
So then, would a private
get promotion.
pension be the answer in that situation?
It's a good idea to have a scheme that you can pay into over a long period of time, because you get the returns, you get the compound interest benefit of doing that.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about this compound interest and these phrases that you're using after these.
To conclude, Piped Up Holmes, we approached this case with an absolutely blank mind. We had no theories, we were simply there to observe. That's why solving this mystery was a lemon tree, my dear Watson. A lemon tree?
When you can't see the words for the blurs, go to seriousreaders.co.uk. From reading lights to magnifiers, book chairs to reading glasses, you'll find everything but the book at seriousreaders.co.uk. Call now on 0800 028 1890 and make reading more fun at seriousreaders.co.uk.
Well, go on then, you first.
No, you first.
I've got it. How about all at once? Ready?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. 1,
2, 3...
Go! Oh, wow, mobile phone.
Mobile phone, get in.
Yeah, I've got one as well.
Yeah, me.
Put a Vodafone pay-as-you-talk phone under the tree this Christmas. From just £30, it pays to buy at your local Vodafone store.
What did you get, Grandad?
Socks.
Subject to availability. Off ends 24th of December 2005.
London's LBC 97.3. Money Matters with Angie Greaves and Scottish Widows. Preparation is everything.
And I'm talking to Guy Dresser this afternoon about pensions. Many people listening now probably don't have a pension. Could be in their 30s, their 40s. I'm in my... and, you know, I'm listening
You're
to
in
you.
your young, low 20s.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, Guy. Oh, and, you know, roughly, if you have a figure, how many people do you think do not have a pension?
Well, in terms of not having a pension or having inadequate pension provision,
Yeah.
it's about 9 million people. That's 9 million. That's roughly 45% of the workforce in the UK.
That's a lot of
It
people.
is a lot. It's a huge number.
And, I mean, has research shown why? Is it because of lack of trust? Is it because they have no knowledge? Or they just think,
All
I'll
those
deal
things.
with it later?
It's fear. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to trust. They're spending everything they earn. They haven't got enough money to put aside for their old age. They're paying national insurance and they think, well, hell, I'll just rely on the state pension. But the reality is the state pension isn't going to be enough
No,
to
it's
pay
not.
for everyone's old age. And that's one of the big problems that the government's looking at the moment.
So we are in a pension crisis, aren't we?
Oh, it is indeed a crisis. And the three things that are likely to happen, we're either going to be paying a lot more tax so the government can fund our pensions. We'll either have to, there'll be some element of compulsion. We'll have to save more. We'll be forced to save more. Or we'll be working longer. It's as simple as that. You won't be able to retire, or you won't be able to claim your pension even if you do retire.
When you say pay more tax, I think in many ways we pay enough taxes as it is just to come into London with your car. I think, you know what I mean? We're constantly paying taxes. We're paying them in all areas of our lives. So to tell people now, you know, you've got to pay more tax in order to fund your pension, I don't think that's going to be music to a lot of people's ears.
Tax is a very controversial area. And, I mean, nobody likes paying tax, but the reality is the government is saying, well, if we enhance the state pension, if we increase it to, and typical figure at the moment is about £109 in today's money, if we increase the pension to £109 and make everyone pay a bit more tax, that's reasonable, isn't it? That's their position. That's the position that many people say.
£109.
Which is in today's terms, that's the current means-tested pension, state pension. So what they do is they say, well, we'll get rid of means testing, we'll make everybody save more, and we'll increase taxes to pay for this. Those are the sort of ballpark conclusions of the pensions review, the Pensions Commission, which comes out next week.
You also say that maybe we will have to save more. I mean, I try and say...
Oh, I know. What they're doing is, one of the things they're looking at is modelling it on the New Zealand system, which is basically, it's voluntary, but everyone's heavily encouraged to put money into it. And it's a form of savings account, which will basically be used to help fund your retirement.
Guy, thank you for coming in. I
Not
do
at
feel
all.
sometimes that we don't have enough time because there's so many areas. You can't talk for 10 minutes on pensions or 10 minutes on properties, but it's always useful to have you in here anyway.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week.
Indeed.
Thank you.
London's LBC 97.3. David Prever with Scottish Widows. Preparation is everything.